Namaste. Good morning. I'm Krishna Bhargavi, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of CSE, GRIET. In this session, let us discuss about the introduction to database design. So the learning objectives of today's session are to identify the steps involved in designing the database, also to summarize the complete process of designing the database. So here for designing the database, from our previous slides or from our previous session, we can understand that we have data models. And out of those data models, for designing the database, we will be making use of ER model, which is called as Entity Relationship Model. So here, whatever the database that we wanted to, whatever application that we wanted to design for the database, we will be making use of this ER model to represent the design of the database in terms of objects and the relationships between the objects. So in designing this database, we have certain steps to follow. So let us have a look on these steps to design the database. So here the database design process is basically divided into 6 steps, starting from the requirements analysis to the application and security design. The first 3 steps, requirement analysis, conceptual database design, logical database design, these 3 are relevant to the ER diagrams. So we'll be making use of ER diagrams in these 3 steps. Then the later 3 steps, that is schema refinement, physical database design, and application and security design. So in these 3 steps are beyond the ER diagram. So you will not be making use of ER diagrams anymore for these 4 steps. For these 3 steps. So now let us discuss about each of these steps in detail. So the first one is requirements analysis. So requirement, what do you mean by a requirement at all? Then we will discuss about how to analyze it. Right. So requirement is the statement which is providing you what is the purpose of developing this database. Considering an example, if I wanted to develop some cab riding application, so in order to do that, I should get certain requirements. Who are the end users who will be using this? What applications can be built on top of this cab riding app? In order to develop this cab riding app, what are the facilities that I wanted to provide? Is it for the first time I am developing this app? So if it is not for the first time that you are creatively and innovatively developing the app, you must understand what is the existing systems for this, what are the drawbacks with this, and then develop your app. So here for this, considering our example, already we had the Ola as a riding app, Uber also as a riding app. So what these provide? These are providing cars, autos and bikes for our riding purposes. Then they understood, after analyzing these existing systems like Ola and Uber, you can understand that there is no rental system. So can you launch a rental Ola or Uber kind of riding app where you will also provide rentals on the vehicles? Yes. So with that, you can go up with one more application. But even nowadays, rentals are also included into the Ola. But if you observe the Ola cab system, earlier you used to have only for cars. Then they re-established, they redeveloped, they updated their application by including autos. Then they updated by including bikes. Then they updated by including rentals. So how they are updating themselves? So they are rechecking and rechecking the existing systems. They are getting feedbacks from their end users. What are their requirements? What the end users are thinking of? They are analyzing it. right? So here the requirements analysis is an informal process from the end users. You may take surveys from the end users, you can take feedbacks from the existing system documentations, you can obtain the merits and demerits of the existing system. Yes, so then putting up all these together, you can develop your own set or list of requirements for developing your own application now. So having the list of requirements is sufficient enough to develop the application? Yes. So using that requirements, you cannot directly work with the database. So what we will have to do? Develop a blueprint for your requirements so that your client can understand, the developer team can understand what you wanted to develop, right? So the output of your first phase is the set of requirements. So these set of requirements are given as input to the second phase called as conceptual database design. So here in the conceptual database design, we'll be making use of entity relationship models, the ER models, using which you can design the database. So by using these ER models, you will be conceptually developing the database and you will be getting a pictorial representation or blueprint of the database. So what are all the objects involved? What are the properties that these objects will have? How do one object will communicate to the other? What relationships may exist between these objects? So all these will be graphically represented using the ER diagrams in the conceptual database design. But can you directly work with ER models in the database? No. So again, your developed pictorial representations, the pictures do not work for us. The database only works for us. So what we will have to do? These pictorial representations must be translated into tabular structures. So that happens in the third phase called as logical database design. So from the ER model, we are translating the objects into tables, the properties into attributes, the relationships are translated into the referential integrity constraints. Right? So here, after the third phase, the output of the third phase in the design process, you will get the table as well as the database that exists in your software, in your machine. So why we are calling these three steps are relevant to ER model? The first step is providing input to ER model. ER model is developed in second step. The third step is providing output as ER model, which is fed to the RDBMS to develop the tables and databases. Okay, so now your tables and database is designed in your third phase. You're comfortably working with it. But you cannot relax saying that the database is designed okay, it is working for us. You will have to identify the problems with the developed schema. So do we have any redundancy issues? Can we improve the retrieval of data? Right? So all such things must be checked on the developed databases, which is the output of your logical database design. So on the tables, on the structure of the tables, you are refining them by identifying whether there are chances of redundancy or not. So that is called as schema refinement. So schema refinement allows you to refine or modify the created schemas in order to improve the performance. So the schema refinement is working on the constructed schemas or structures of the database. Then coming to the next one, physical database design. So using the physical database design, we will be deciding what indexes to be used, whether to use an index or not. Do we need to group the data using any clustering mechanism? Do we need to change the physical sequence of storing the data? What kind of stored records can we use? What should be their physical sequence? So all details with respect to the physical storage structures will be held here in this fifth phase. Then the last one is directly you cannot give the database to the end user because they may not know your SQL statements. They may not know how the output is retrieved. What they want, they click, they retrieve, right? And they also want some visualizations and graphics also. So for that, you will have to provide an application, end user's application to the user. So in the last step, when once the backend is created, develop an application on top of this. Also, security is the major issue. So we will have to provide security to our database that is created, and only how many users and what kind of users are to be allowed must also be decided. So here if you observe in these later three phases, 4, 5, 6, fourth phase is involving the tables that are created. Fifth phase is involving the physical data structure. Sixth phase is speaking about the applications and security that we will have to provide on the data. So these three are not with respect to the ER diagrams. So that is the reason why we see that the later three steps are beyond ER diagrams. So these are the 6 phases that are involved in designing the database for any application of your choice. Is first you gather the requirements, make use of different mechanisms to gather the requirements. When once the list of requirements are obtained, develop a pictorial representation using ER model, then translate the ER model into a database schema or structure. Then understand your schema, try to refine it. Use the physical data structures whichever are necessary depending upon the amount of data that you are storing. Develop an application for the front end and take care of all the security issues or concerns with respect to your database. Hope you understood what are the different steps involved in designing the database. Thank you.